Whoa. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. I thought we were live, and it turns out we were not. So this is what we're learning. Anyhow, um, well, we'll just start again. Hannah and I met because she read my books about DeForest Kelly, and we've been in touch on, Facebook time and again. And Roger, unfortunately, isn't able to join us tonight because he's not feeling well. So we want to send him all the best and a quick recovery. Hannah grew up in a showbiz family, so she's ready to pitch it tonight. And I'm showing her the ropes just as Roger was showing me, which is great because I get an opportunity to be a trainer too now, not just a trainee. So, Hannah, if you want to tell a little bit about yourself, that would be great.
Like Kris said, I read a lot of his books about DeForest Kelly. I'm reading one right now. I'm a big fan of D, big fan of Kris, and I'm just happy to be here.
All right. Another thing we just found out about each other is that we're both Jack Benny fans. And I think you heard me say on one of the earlier shows that Dee was in a play called Beginner's Luck in Lubbock, Texas. And the producer of that show said Dee had the timing of Jack Benny, that he was absolutely a comic genius. And it's too bad we didn't see more of that. I mean, there were touches of that, in McCoy, and there are touches of that in Variety Girl, which is one of his earliest films, his second film out after Fear in the Night. There was a little bit of that there, but not a whole lot. You saw most of the comedy in McCoy, but that Beginner's Luck was a total comedy, and the producer said he was just fabulous in that. So that's where that stands. I think. Are we caught up now on where we were when we started out with a false start?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Dee had said that when Gene Roddenberry offered him, each of the roles, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, he said that he chose McCoy because he felt like it had some humor in it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. He offered him any one of the three roles, and he said, "No, I want McCoy." And boy, what a great! I can't imagine anyone else as McCoy.
I can't imagine him as anyone else.
I can't imagine him. Yeah, right. So he did the right thing. They all did the right thing. That show is iconic because it was so well cast.
Mm-hmm. So, they had such a good chemistry.
Yes.
That's something that you can't fake either.
That's right. That's right. So I don't know. This whole broadcast might be about DeForest Kelly. Unless we get some questions and comments, please let me know who you are, where you're calling from. I have a comment here from someone. Let's take a look. Aha! Hi, Kris and Hannah. There we go. I think that is Jano. Is that right?
Hi, Jano.
Put a big right or wrong. If not, and I'll try again. I'm pretty sure that's Jano. Okay. Anywho, thank you for the like, and hope let's see, we got some viewers coming in, 2 of them from NDME Media. So please let us know who you are. One of them might be Roger, who's feeling crummy tonight, but let us know who you are and where you're from. And if you have any questions about DeForest Kelly or anything else that I know something about, or Hannah, she's a showbiz family. You can ask her too about showbiz. So, do you have anything you want to say, Hannah, or question you want to ask me? Follow up on D or anything like that?
Well, when you ask me stuff like this, the first one that comes to mind is what made him smile. What made him feel good. If you know.
I think he was a pretty smiley guy. One of the things about D was when you were with him, you felt like you were the only other person on the planet. He really, really tuned into who you were and what was going on in your life. He was very, very, interested in that. Whereas I'm kind of afraid to ask people. I wait for them to volunteer what they want to tell me about themselves. He was just truly excited. And hi, Eric's from Missouri. Here we Cookie Sword. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Cookie Sword.
Yeah,
I like that name.
I do too. Or Cookie's Word.
Whichever.
Yeah. Are you Cookie's word or Cookie Sword? Pronounced Jano. Birth name is Jane. Yes, I know. Okay, here's Jan. Oh, wait. Pronounced Jano. All right, Jano. Birth name is Jane. When I took my first dad reached out his arms to me, according to Mom, and said, "Way to go, Jano." That's where Jano comes from. That's
That's
great.
so sweet.
That's awesome. All right. Jano is a caregiver. Am I correct? Cookie Sword. We got Cookie Sword. Okay.
Nice.
We got it right the first time. That's awesome. Yes. Okay. All right. So let's go back to, let's see who else is logging in. We got 2 from NDB Media and 2 from another NDB Media. I can't say it, but there we have it. So Ross is been helping us every single time. Thank you, Ross, so much. He's one of Roger's regulars. He said a cookie sword would be worthless but delicious against a milk monster. That's great. All right. So, yeah, I'm kind of at a loss for words. I'm not sure where we want. You want me to? Oh, one thing I could do is put up that photo because I think we missed that.
Yeah, gone but not forgotten.
Yeah, gone but not forgotten. So there we go. I was thinking about maybe talking about some of my critters because usually most people who are following me are animal lovers. You got something special for Christmas?
Yeah. If you can see it, I don't know how well you can see it.
A little closer in front of you. There you go. There you go.
So yeah, that's a pillow of my dog Dixie who passed away in 2017. I opened it on Christmas and just started bawling.
Oh. Okay, I'm trying to find some photos that I just put in here today. If I can find them of my critters. Well, here's Charlie, who will probably be joining us, and she joined us in every other show. This was my serval that you read a lot about in a lot of my books with Dee and Carol. Here's a picture of Dee with Poppy, one of my other kitties. Here's a picture of Dee and Carolyn with Deacon. Here's a real close-up of Deacon. Here's me. We were talking about the Mount St. Helens eruption last time, and these are 2 of the fawns that were orphaned by the Mount St. Helens eruption, and Fish and Game gave them to me and asked me to raise them. And I was so, they ended up being so darn tame that I ended up giving them to Northwest Trek so that they wouldn't get shot by hunters. But yeah. So let's see. Okay. Look for some more banners here. Oh, if you'd like to join us, and if you're on my Facebook page, everybody should go there and take a look. You can join us here, and that way you can actually interact with us. So please do that if you get a chance. I'm going to check out Facebook and see if anybody's logged on from there. Doesn't look like it. So anyhow, if you'd like to join us, that's how to do that.
How have your critters been doing with all the snow that you've been getting?
I had to, it's literally 20 degrees, between 20 and 30 degrees right now in Haston. We didn't get mail delivery or garbage picked up at all yet, all week since Saturday. So I went out 3 days prior to when I knew it was going to freeze, and I winterized the goat shed really, really well. I put an extra door in so they just have this little tiny passageway in so that their body heat can stay warm in the shed. And I put a whole bale of hay in there. They're happy as bugs in a rug. I have a heater in the trough to keep the water, thawed and warm enough. So I just go out every day and check on them and give them food, and they're doing well. My cats are like They step out the door and go, nope, nope, not today. And right back in. All of the chickadees and all of the wild beings, the hummingbirds were keeping their waters thawed and keeping lots of bird seed and popcorn and peanuts and everything we can think of for any of the critters outside who are trying to brave this storm.
Yeah.
So nice for tomorrow. It's supposed to get all of 40 degrees tomorrow. What's it like in New Jersey right now? I'm in Tacoma, by the way.
Yeah. Like Kris said, I'm in New Jersey. We've only actually gotten one thing of snow, and it didn't even stick.
Ah. But
yeah, we have not had a white Christmas in at least 7 years.
Oh, wow. We had a white Christmas. And then a whole bunch the next day.
My sister's very jealous.
Uh-huh. When you said you had to delay some of your Christmas thing, so did we. Because yeah. Some of the people who were supposed to come live like 30 miles away and they couldn't get here. So half of my Christmas is still waiting for me. I don't know what's going on. But the actual dinner part.
Yeah, we tend to go to my cousins on Christmas, and a couple of them came down with COVID.
Oh no. Are they doing okay?
Yeah, they're doing okay. But they're also kids, so it's like you feel bad for them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, Ross is in northern Utah. What's the weather like there? I know here, I just got more information. Spent 2 hours with a snowblower unburying today, but now I can get the car out and get to the barnyard to feed the horses, burros, sheep, and other critters. Well, that's good. Wow, 2 hours. Wow. Cookie Sword says you're getting snow down there. In Missouri, it's been super warm, and it's only starting to get cold. Wow. Okay. Well, the weather change is just astonishing. You know, the places where you expect there to be snow, there is none, and where you don't expect there to be any, it's freezing and all kinds of stuff. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
We have lots of viewers, 3 from MDB Media, 1 on my Facebook page, and another one from another source for NDB Media. So, yeah. Hello. Please tell us who you are and where you're from and what your weather's like, and tell us something about your critters, or ask me a question about DeForest Kelley or whatever. Oh, let me tell you a little bit about whatever new is going to be like when it actually debuts. This is a test. This is only a test. It's going to debut on January 15th at 10:30 in the morning Pacific time, and it's going to be broadcast every other Saturday after that. And it's basically an hour, at least an hour of uplifting. Our tests have gone an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. So it just depends on how long everybody's interested in, everybody's interacting. But I'm planning to have, I think, 3 different segments that can be short, long, depending on who's interested and if, the conversation keeps going. But one of them is going to be called Joyride, and that's about any joy that the week has brought you, or the month has brought you, or even something in the past that brought you immense joy. And one of the examples I gave was when I was walking one day and there was a gentleman, a USPS truck was coming by. I always walk by this Mother Goose house. I call it a Mother Goose house because there are like at least 30 geese. This is not all of them. This is just what I could catch in one image. And as I was approaching this goose house one day, the USPS truck was coming in the other direction, and the geese they had been far back by the house when the USPS truck turned the corner, and all of a sudden they just came flocking and flying and squawking, and just like Christmas morning, for geese. And I thought, what is going on, And it turned out, of course, the postman always feeds them. So it was really, really a cold day that day, and I was freaking freezing. But the minute I saw that, I just warmed all up. I just got warm everywhere, and I gave him a big thumbs up. And I said, you just made my day, And he said, I have a nephew, and he rode with me a few weeks ago, and he didn't know about the goose house. And when we pulled up and the geese came running, he said, do you feed these ducks every time? So, yeah. Stuff like that, the stuff you don't expect. that just lights up your life in some way. I call that joyride. And I'd like people to, like, send me comments about something like that happened with you that lifts your spirits. Another segment will probably be called Delights, and that's anything anybody wants to know about DeForest Kelley, because I've written several books, and an awful lot of people came to me as a result of having read those books. And then there'll be another segment called Ask Me Anything within reason, and that's for you to ask me anything. Tammy Armstrong asked me one day, for example, she's up in Ontario, Canada. She asked me, I had written a blog about intuition. And she said, how do you know when to trust your intuition? I always second guess myself. And I said, the answer to that is almost always. You should almost always trust your intuition. And anytime you second guess yourself, try to identify whose voice that is making you second guess yourself. It's almost never yours. It's usually someone else who's afraid for you, or someone else who wants you to do something else. We really want to pay attention to the intuitions, because if it wasn't for me paying attention to my intuitions when I was a kid, I never would have gotten in my life where I got as a writer. I had so many people afraid for me. They thought I was going to starve to death as a writer, because back then, in the 50s and 60s, there was not the information age. There were maybe 3 TV stations. There wasn't this huge need for content and copy and stuff like that. But I just knew I was destined to write. I was put on the earth to write, and I kept doing it. I couldn't not do it. I mean, it's like breathing to me. I have to do that thing. So I just kept doing it and kept doing it and getting better and better. And then when the information age came, boom, there it is. There's the opportunity. So if your intuition is asking you to do something, especially if you're in a creative field, because so many people are afraid for you. They think it's so competitive. It's so competitive. If it's the only thing that really makes your life light up and your passion, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Because you will find a way. It's not easy. It's hard. There are 70-hour work weeks. There are auditions where you have to go home every time, not getting it, not getting the job you want. But you need to keep doing it, because that's why you're here. So I always say, listen to your intuition most of the time. If you second guess, try to figure out who that second voice is. It's almost never yours. And if it's not yours, don't listen to it. Also, the other thing is, listen to the naysayers in your life. There are so many naysayers, and they're not necessarily negative Nellies. They're not bad people. They're just afraid for you. They think you have chosen a career that is going to be really, really risky and hard to do it, hard to get. And if you listen to them, and a lot of them are, parents, and some of them are teachers. A lot of my naysayers were teachers. And I'm going to put up the cover of a book that I wrote, Yaysayers, the Good Guides, that encourages teenagers to listen to the yaysayers in your life. Because it's teachers, it's actors, it's other writers, it's people who were in the know who kept telling me, you can do this, that kept me passionate, kept me from giving up on it, even though I was passionate about it. And the very first person who got an article published for me was DeForest Kelley. I was, this kid living in the sticks, and I didn't know if I had what it took. And he just recognized the value and how well it was written, and sent it to a motion picture magazine in New York, and they published it verbatim, word for word. And wow, it blew my mind. My parents had to peel me off the ceiling. I was so excited, because I'd always wanted to be a writer, but I was too afraid to really submit anything on my own. So after that, I certainly started submitting. I was like, okay, I can do this. So yes. Another comment. Let me go into the comments. Squirrel Lake says, good idea. I think that's about the intuition thing, because I'm not catching up here. Oh, I want to hear about this. Ross Trowbridge says, our burros hear everything. If we move in the house near feeding time, they'll start braying to let us know they're waiting. And every time they start up, our dogs have to start howling to answer. Who said country life was quiet? I got to tell you, Ross, a wonderful story. When I worked for the Animal Protection Institute, I was the wild horse expert, not the burrow expert, but there was a burrow expert on staff. And unfortunately, she had to go to Washington, D.C. to go before a congressional committee to explain why the wild horses needed protection at that time, and still do, by the way. And so they told me, well, you're the wild horse expert. You can go ahead and you can go and talk about burros. And I'm like, that's not my topic. Anyhow, they sent me out to this place where they had rounded up a bunch of burros to keep them from being shot to be adopted out. And I went there, and never having met a burro before in my life. And this film crew comes up, and we get in the back of this truck. I knew they had been feeding burros for several weeks from the back of trucks. So I thought, well, we can probably get close enough where we drop some hay. We can probably get close enough that with a long lens, they might be able to get some pictures, Well, they wanted closer up pictures than that. They wanted some really intimate close up pictures. And I said, so how can we get close up to them? And I was just being a clown. I just was being a clown. And I said, well, I'll disguise myself like a bale of hay. And that's exactly what I did. I took 2 flakes of hay and I held one above and one below, and I stepped off the truck, and these burros came right up and started eating off of the bales of hay that I was holding. So they got these marvelous close-up photos of these wild burros. Felt like you could reach out and pet them and touch them and caress them. And no, you couldn't. They were wild burros. But
I was going to say, that doesn't sound like a good idea.
It wasn't a good idea. It was not a good idea. But I didn't try to interact. I just let them eat. And I was right next to the truck that the videographers were in. So, there was no reason for them to hurt me. Mm-hmm. But I was just like, okay, well, that's the animal behaviorist in me. I knew to be careful, not to do anything crazy out of, let's go pet no, we don't do that. We don't pet the wild animals. But anyhow, Ross, did you get yours? Aha. Oh, Ross. Oh, mate, we got to talk to Ross some more. We have 3 adopted Mustangs. And a Chincoteague pony. Oh my gosh, I want to see. Ross, I want to see.
Yeah, do you have any pictures?
Do you have any pictures on your PC or anything that you can share with us? Maybe next time, if you can't pull them up now. I could send you a link and you can join us. Let me see. Let me find the link. He says our burros are still mainly arm's length after 8 months, though they do appreciate a scratch when you get close enough. Let me send you a link. I know I have a link here, right here. Okay, it's copied. Now what do I do with it? Okay, I put it right here, and I put it right there. See, Roger trained me well. Okay, so now I want to go here. Right there. I think that's right. Let me look and see that's the right number. Yes, that's the right one. Ross, if you'd like to join us, and if you have some photos, that would be great. No pressure. No pressure. But if you can, that's how to get in to actually join us. I don't know if you ever joined Roger before, but if you have, hey, come on. We'd love to talk about burros. That's the neat thing about this show is we end up talking about things we had no plan to talk about. Roger and I discovered that we have a mutual passion for volcanoes, meteor craters, lahars, geology, plate tectonics, and stuff like that. We had no idea because we had met as fellow DeForest Kelley fans. And it turns out, he's an animal lover. You're an animal lover. Jack Benny. I mean, we're just like, well, we just discover so much more about each other when we do stuff like this. So this is a lot of fun. I'm going to check and see I want to thank everybody from NDB Media who is coming in. Whoever is on my Facebook page, please come to this, the NDB thing so we can actually talk to you. I'm going to try to find the other link. To get you in here. I mean, if you wanted to come in live, like Hannah is, the one I have up there right now is the one to get you in there. But the other one is just NDMeV. Let me see. I got to find it. Here. If you come in through there, Facebook folks, then we'll be able to interact directly, and you'll be able to comment and stuff. So if on my Facebook page, unfortunately, I can't comment from there. If I tried, there would be horrendous feedback, and it would drive you out of the room. So you need to come in through one of these ways. So I've got a like from Ross.
Thank you, Ross.
Ross. Not any more comments at the moment. So,
I have a question for you, Kris.
Sure.
So you have had this whole critter corral. You've been a huge critter fan your whole life. Is there any kind of animal you would like to have but have not had the opportunity?
I've been one of those very, very fortunate people that I've been able to interact with almost all of the animals that I wanted to. And I did have a serval for 17 years, which is an African wildcat that's about the size of a Doberman Pinscher. But when I was in Hollywood, I went to a animal affection training school where a lot of the Hollywood animal actors were trained and came out of. And I got to meet so many, chimps. Oh, you know what? I got all kinds of pictures of them, and I think I put them up in here. Chimps, ostriches, Galapagos turtles, bears, lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! The Battlestar Galactica chimp that was inside the robot, that was Doc. His name was really Darwin.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you asked? Is there anyone I wanted that I didn't have?
Yeah.
Well, when I was very, very young, I wanted a monkey in the worst way. Now that I'm grown up, I know better. That would be a horrendous undertaking because they're darn near as smart as we are, and they're a heck of a lot more limber and agile, and you'd have to set up a room to where, basically anything goes. So I'm kind of glad I didn't do that. Anything else? I think I'd like to meet. I have not yet met a sloth. But
that's really interesting.
Yeah. There's a sloth not far from here, but you have to pay $80 to meet it. And I haven't done that. Yeah. And I don't know if meeting it means I could hold it, but I've seen the photos of people lifting sloths off the, highway and taking them to the trees.
Yeah.
Don't get hit, and the sloth reaches back and kind of says thank you in a way, and it's like, oh,
that's adorable.
Yeah. So yeah, I love all animals. I really, I'm just a pushover for critters. Koalas. I'd like to meet a koala. I haven't been to Australia, so there you go. I met some river otters, some baby river otters when I was with the Animal Protection Institute. That was one of the highlights of the night because it was such a delight. So got some comments coming on. Let's see what we got. Squirrel Lake is also mentioning photography on her passion. Are you okay?
Yeah, I just had to move operations. My laptop's dying.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, what is this? Facebook comedy set. I don't know what that is, Ross. You're giving me an HTTPS media set. Oh, maybe that's where they can go to see pictures of the. Maybe that's where they can go to see the horse. And Ross says these are wild horses near Tooele, Utah. Oh, okay, that's what those are. The wild horses near Tooele, Utah. And Ross says, I haven't met a sloth, but I'm good friends with a guy that works at the DMV. Oh my gosh, did you see that movie? Did you see the movie
Yes.
with the? Oh my gosh, that was
Zootopia.
yes, yeah. All right.
Fastest guy in the DMV is a sloth.
Yes.
That is the truth.
All right. It looks like I have 3 people at Facebook. So if you would please come to this other thing, we can talk and you can leave comments. Unless you're just watching, and that's fine too. But yeah. So tell me why you are a big Jack Benny fan.
When I was in college, I took a radio class, and my dad started telling me about Jack Benny, that I should try listening to him because I really enjoyed the radio class and being on the air every week. So I don't know what it was about Jack Benny, and I still don't know, but I started listening to him. If anyone has like an Amazon Alexa, Echo, any of that, you can get full episodes on there. But yeah, I don't know what it is. There's just something I really like about him.
Is it the timing?
I don't know because personally, Jack Benny doesn't really fit my sense of humor, but there's something about him that I still just find really entertaining to listen to. Yeah, I guess it's just the stories. How some of them take place during a show or behind the scenes at Jack's house. Some of them are just like this big flashback. Yeah, I mean, I'm a storyteller, so the story is a big deal for me.
Right.
Yeah, I've done shows that I wasn't really big on the script, and therefore I didn't really have a good time with it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved the people, that I did the show with, but if I like the story, then I'm going to have a much better time.
Right. So who are some of your favorite storytellers?
Oh, fiction or nonfiction?
Doesn't matter, whatever.
Throw them all together.
Yeah.
Well, I really like you.
Oh,
for one.
That was not.
Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I really like, and one of the reasons I really like you is because I really like your style. Oh, are you okay?
I'm fine. My green screen just came down around me. Keep going.
Oh no.
Keep going.
I remember in elementary school when I would have writing assignments, I would try to write how you were, like in a very similar style. But my teachers would always say that I could not write like that.
Why?
I had to be very formal with my writing. So I took, for some reason, I took that to heart. And so I was very formal with my writing. But once I started reading your books, I'm like, wait a minute, this is an okay way to write.
It is.
And it's very good. I enjoy it.
What's interesting about what you just said is when I was in I was taking some community college courses, and one of them, just for fun, because I'd been a writer already, was a creative writing thing. And I went in there, and the teacher gave me the exact opposite information that you received.
Really?
But it's different. She said, Kris, you have an amazing, amazing vocabulary. But unless you talk like other people talk, you're going to miss half of the audience who should be reading what you're so good at saying. She says, don't talk to college professors. Don't write for college. Write for the average. And and that meant, okay, Mark Twain always said there's the perfect word for everything you mean. He said there's a huge difference between lightning and a lightning bug,
Yeah.
And I'm a huge Mark Twain fan. I love the way he wrote. But that told me what I needed to know. And that was most people want to be comfortable in their writing. They don't want to sit around with a dictionary in their hand. Not everybody has a college education. Not everybody is a native. There are some people who want to read you who come from English as a second language. You want to be able to communicate. Write to express, not to impress.
Exactly.
Basically. And so since then, it was the absolute best information I think I ever received was talk like you're visiting with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
True, that doesn't work in every instance, but it even works as a copywriter. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
be talked down to or felt like, good Lord, what are you trying to say? My sister is not much of a reader, my younger sister. And she's read all of my books, and she says, I love your books because even when you use a word that I don't understand, you use it in the context that I know what it means. So I'm thinking that's kind of about where I want to be. People who aren't, inveterate, just eager beaver readers still can understand what I'm saying if I use a word. And I asked her which words. She said, I don't remember which words because I don't ever think I use a word that everybody can understand, but apparently I do sometimes. But I use it in such a way that they understand what it means.
Yeah, I think you're very good at that. When you write, you sound very relaxed, like you're talking to the individual themselves,
Right.
and not just, tons of people.
Right. And as a copywriter, you can't even do that because if you're trying to talk to everybody, you're talking to nobody. Nobody wants to sound like you're doing an oration in front of, unless you are standing in a stadium doing an oration, nobody wants to be communicated with that way. They want to feel like I'm talking to you,
Yeah.
So Ross Trowbridge says, I can't seem to click on the right thing. Oh my gosh, where did it go? There we go. I can see it. Okay, here we go. Ross says, I'm a technical writer. A big part of my job is translating engineer speak to normal English for non-engineers. I did a lot of that at Warner Brothers because as an executive secretary, we would get these Netscape or whatever, technical journals, and I have to say, this is what that means. But I had to understand it well enough to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that wasn't always easy. So I had to, and now we've got Jano. I'm sorry, I'll call her Squirrel Lake because that's what she wants. I wanted to get my mom to tell me her memories from growing up in Minocqua. She agreed. I wrote it exactly the way she told me in her words. My brother said I should write down my memories now since her memory book went over so well. Yes, you should. Everybody should have a journal. You would be amazed the things you forget if you haven't written them down. The reason I end up writing my DeForest Kelley book, this is the truth. Dee gave me permission to write his biography, but I'm not a biographer. I am an anecdotal writer. I am a storyteller. So I gave the biography to Terry Lee Rio, who is an historian. And he went off and interviewed all the people that Dee gave me, whose names Dee gave me to interview for the book. And then she came to me and said, well, you were with him the last 3 months of his life in the hospital. I need to interview you. And she said, how did you go from being a fan on the outermost reaches of fandom to being at his bedside when he passed away? And I had no idea. I said, Terry, I don't know the answer to that question. That's something you would have had to ask Dee. She goes, no, you know the answer. You just need to follow the breadcrumbs. Unfortunately, I was a journalist. I had kept all these journals, and I went back and I just went into all my journals and I followed the breadcrumbs and found out how that happened. I wrote the book an awful lot for myself to figure out what the answer to that question was. How did that happen? I was just felt so lucky that they were treating me so well and being very kind to this fan. It never occurred to me until belatedly when he asked me to really help him at the end, totally help him at the end, kind of basically help him die. I never realized that I was that trusted, and so the book kind of helped me learn what that journey was in retrospect so that I could, kind of answer the question. And again, it was a 540-page answer. So if you don't keep journals, it's amazing how many things I forgot even happened. And you think, he's my favorite actor. How would I forget a single thing that ever happened? I forgot 70% of what happened. Without those journals there to remind me, I never would have remembered half of it. And I ended up laughing and crying and doing all kinds of, just reliving it all over because I hadn't remembered so much of it. So really, please, please, please keep journals, not only for yourself, but if you have children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews. So many people do not keep records and journals. I would give my left arm if I had journals from my great grandparents who emigrated here. Can you imagine uprooting yourself from the only country you've ever known and coming over to a country where you don't even speak the language and saying, well, I need to do this? Obviously, they needed to do it. They were probably in desperate circumstances, but I don't know what those were. And I would have loved to have had something from them, even if they had written it in German. I mean, I would have had it translated. I would have, I want to know more about my ancestors than I know about my ancestors, and I'll never be able to. So even though I don't have kids, I have nieces and nephews and people who might later on, want to look into my journal and say, what was life like in the 60s? What was life like before 9/11? Both of my nieces were born after 9/11, or so soon before 9/11 that they don't remember life, other than 9/11. So it was a whole different world before 9/11. So yeah, I highly, highly recommend that you make a journal. So that was a long answer. And we are 45 minutes in. Heaven's sakes. Time flies when you're having fun. We can do another 15 minutes if people are still interested. Send comments. I have 4 people now at my Facebook page, 4 people at different various ND medias. No comments, though. So we don't have anything to follow up on here.
Cookie Sword says, I've tried keeping journals before, and yet I always end up forgetting to write in them.
Put it
Same
on
with
your
me.
calendar. Put it on your calendar. Yep.
When I was younger, when I was like 12, for a short amount of time, I kept a dream journal.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, when I would wake up, I would write down whatever it was that I dreamt about. And it's interesting going back to see those things, especially if you see any kind of pattern.
Right. Right. Cookie Sword, it lasts for about a week, and then I pick it up 6 months later. Well, you know what? I started out that way. I really did. There are some of my journal I going, hello, what did you do the last 6 months? And then I just pick it up and I say, okay, this is what happened that I didn't tell you about. So just go back over the 6 months you didn't do it and say, give a thumbnail of what you did. And more. Jano says, I do have 8.5-inch binders of all my family history, all sides. Wow. Sure helps me get to know them. That's amazing. That's wonderful. I do know an awful lot of my relatives on my mom's side of the family, in her mother's generation, were missionaries in China. But no other information. I do know we're related to the Brothers Grimm because my mother kept hearing these oral histories that we were related to the Brothers Grimm. And she was named after either the Brothers Grimm mother Dorothea or a woman named Dorothea that one of the Brothers Grimm married. But my writing talents, my storytelling ability is probably inherited.
Have you seen Into the Woods? Because that's like all a bunch of fairy tales that they did put together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they are, the Brothers Grimm fairy tales, if you read the originals, are very, very dark. They're very scary, and they're very, they're almost malevolent, but they were trying to teach kids to stay out of the woods because there were highwaymen and people out there that, that would hurt them. So they were trying to scare kids, keep them out of the woods and stuff like that. But yeah, they're very dark. Disney kind of lightened them up.
Oh yeah,
significantly, for the younger generation, for the now generation.
I remember having to read their version or their Little Red Riding Hood when I was 16, I want to say, in high school. And I just remember being like, what happened here?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you read the original version and you go, whoa, that's not the one. That's not the version I learned. Yeah. But I did buy it because I thought, okay, those are my relatives. I need to, yeah, and I need to read those. But since I'm a very positive, optimistic person, I'm not a horror watcher. I don't watch horror shows. I don't go out and watch the dark dystopian stuff. I just don't do that because it's sometimes I think the world is dystopian enough. We want to keep things on the lighter side. Not that
Yeah.
it scares me because I know it's fantasy and it's pretend, but it's still like that's not the way I want to spend my entertainment time. So I
Hmm.
want to laugh or cry because of a love or something, like that.
Yeah.
So
But you'll do it for your family.
yes. Ross says seems like I heard you have to do something 21 times before it becomes a habit. I have heard that too, and I've heard 21 times in a row. Like if you want to establish an exercise routine, do it 21 times, and then all of a sudden you will miss it if you don't continue it. It also depends on what that thing is. If you really, really love it, you don't need to do it 21 times to want to repeat it.
Hmm.
But if you're trying to develop a habit that isn't, something that you're really passionate about, then you do have to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Part of that is getting over the outside my comfort zone feeling of, the nerve wracking thing of it. Make it at least comfortable. Well, I started networking as a business person because I'm basically very, very shy. And I don't want to walk into a room and, hi, I'm Kris, and this is what I do. I mean, I just don't like doing that. And so I told myself, you're not doing it because you're afraid, because you're introverted. Go and do it until you can do it comfortably, and then you can stop if you want. But walk through the fear, do it anyway. And I did. And it took me a long time, but I got to the point where I was very, very comfortable doing it. And then once it's comfortable, you don't mind continuing to do it. But almost anything that you do new, you step outside your comfort zone and it feels
Hmm.
very alien and a little scary. But I always look at the word fear as false evidence appearing real.
I like
Unless
that.
unless there's a tiger standing in front of you, and then even then you have to decide, is that a friendly tiger or a not friendly tiger? You have to give yourself enough response time to realize, is my fear going to get me killed if I do this thing, public
Yeah.
speaking or anything like that? Anything that you're afraid of, it's like, okay, can this really end up getting me killed? You're the only two things people are afraid of at birth are the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Those are the only two fears we have instinctively, the fear of falling and the
Hmm.
fear of loud noises. Everything else is something that we have either learned by bad experience or been told. So almost any fear you experience, unless you're standing on the edge of a cliff, or somebody, claps thunder behind you, it's learned. And so I've always done. Oh, good. Yeah. Ross mentioned something that we talked about just before we actually went live.
Yeah.
Ross said, I like that they stuck Jack Benny into It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Tell that story, Hannah.
So Jack Benny was not invited to be part of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World like all the other really good comics were at the time, and he was somewhat offended that he was not invited, so he ended up begging the director, to let him in. And the director caved and let him have those 5 seconds. When he pulls up to Ethel Merman, Trouble, having a spot of trouble. Those were his 5 seconds of glory on that show.
And she said, yes, but we don't need you, which is
Yeah,
almost
yeah. She
the
said,
producers
yes, but we don't need any help from you.
Yeah. So let's see, no more comments, but we got lots of eyes. We got 2 likes. And we're getting close to 1 hour. We can probably end it at 1 hour unless somebody else has some more questions, comments, or insights that they want to share.
Who are your
Oh,
favorite storytellers?
pardon?
Who are your favorite storytellers?
My favorite storytellers have been almost in order Mark Twain, Garrison Keillor. I don't know how to say his name really. Those are the two I can think of right off the top of my head. And I think the interesting thing about Mark Twain is to read him today, some people might need a dictionary in their hand, but that also tells how much our education probably is not as up to par as his was, as far as, because he had a vocabulary most people don't use much today. And not just, it's not archaic, it's just that he uses a lot, bigger words and stuff. But I just love, he can paint a picture and put you right there with him. And that's always a big deal for me. I want to be able to get there. I want to be able to vicariously experience what the other person is experiencing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So a good storyteller puts you in the story.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I guess we could wrap it up. I want to thank you for pinch hitting. I hope you will come and join us many, many, many more times in the future.
Oh, definitely. Thank you for having me.
You are really good. You're really great. And you're better at it than I am. So I don't know about that. So I guess we'll call it a night and thank everybody for being here. You'll be able to see this again almost immediately as soon as we log off here for anybody who missed it. And I want to welcome everybody who did miss it. And again, mention that this is a test number 4. We may have one or more tests before January 15th, but the actual debut of the podcast, Ever New, is going to be January 15th at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. And then the podcast will be every other Saturday after that, after the 15th. So we hope to see you there. And if you can join us, that would be great, because the more people who engage, the more wild we can get and the more subject we can introduce. So thank you. Thank you. Did you have anything else you wanted to say, Hannah?
No, I think I'm good.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Jano. Thank you, Cookie Sword.
Cookie Sword?
Yeah. Amy Hewlin just popped on. I was watching on Facebook, but I don't know if you could see our comments. No, Amy, I can't. Next time I have an invite button, which I put up earlier in this podcast, where you can come right on in and join us. And I would love to that. She's a teacher. She's about to retire. She's wonderful. She also appeared in one of the Star Trek episodes. She's an amazing, amazing person. So I would like to have her come and join us whenever she's available. You'll love her. Her students love her. So, all right. I'll say goodnight. Thank you again, Hannah. Thank you for everybody who joined us. And we'll see you. I'll schedule this maybe a week from tonight again. And I'll let everybody know. Okay? Thank you. Thanks for staying up so late, Hannah.
Oh, no problem.
And all of you folks on the East Coast, thank you. Thank you for staying with us. Tammy, if you're there, thank you too. Okay, so we'll see ya. Bye-bye.
Have a nice night, guys.